Well, what I will say to start off this podcast in a bit of a roundabout way is hello, gentlemen. I'm not going to say ladies because none of you listen. If you are a lady, then let us know. Right? I mean, but generally, according to our what they call like statistics sort of things, it's all blokes. It's my beautiful face that's attracted. I was going to say attracted all the women. It's scaring them away, maybe. I'm Ian.
I'm Mike.
We're FDT TV. If you've not been here before, we ramble on about nothing really for long enough.
4 minutes.
Yeah, no, we do like everything with football, mainly Arsenal and West Ham, but we do like to speak about sort of current ongoings. And that being said, Frank Lampard has been sacked. Some would say fortunately, others would say unfortunately. I tried to reach out on Twitter to Chelsea fans about what did they think, and none of them responded. So I would assume they're probably all in mourning because he was a club legend. He is their highest goal scorer ever. But yeah, he's been sacked after 571 days in the job. Do you think it was a called for sacking, or what's your take on it?
There's two parts to this. They have had a dip in form recently, granted with the win in the FA Cup.
Yep,
that's fair enough. But is that going to be enough to keep you in the job? Clearly not. Got to FA Cup final against us last year. Frank Lampard in his first season managed to get his club to the final. Granted, I think the better team won on the day. Had they managed to keep a few players fit or on the pitch, then would have been a different story. But I think Pep summed it up. I saw a tweet that he put out, and he summed it up really well. And I think this is very true, that you can have what was it? He said something about there's no plans or tactics nowadays. If you don't win, you're going to get sacked. And I think that's really true.
Yeah,
I think when something's not working at the club.
Mm-hmm.
But for the start that Chelsea had this season, because it's only been really over the last few weeks where they've had the dip in form, or the last couple of months, shall we say, where they've had the real dip in form.
Yeah.
But form is temporary. It's that age-old cliche. Form is temporary, and I really think that a couple of weeks' time that they would have probably got themselves out of the dip that they were in. Timo Werner hasn't been as prolific as what they thought he would be, missing the penalty at the weekend. There's just been a few misfirings. Is that down to the manager? They obviously think so. But for me personally, I think the players need to take a serious look at themselves, get their fingers out their asses, and then pull together.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same for any club.
Yeah, I mean, I think he knew, didn't he, going into that all right, the first season he may have got away with it a little bit because they were under transfer embargo. But if you're not winning, you're gonna go. He see the manager door, or the carousel of managers coming in and out of the club. Some won Champions Leagues, others won cups, Premier League titles. And next season they were gone. So I mean, I'll give you some stats here. 57 matches in charge. They won 28, drew 11, lost 18. That's since he took charge. Average.
Is that all competitions?
That's all competitions. Average 2.04 goals for a game, 1.38 goals against. They actually scored 102 goals and conceded 77. On average, 1.67 points a match, which if you're looking at winning the Premier League isn't quite good enough, is it? But I think his downfall was going, right, let's go and spend big. Under transfer embargo, people going, he's working wonders with this younger team that he can't spend anything. They'd sold their best player that they'd had in years, arguably one of their best ever. And then he's gone out and spent 220 million there or thereabouts. And maybe Ziyech. Mendy come in really strongly, but it seems to have fallen apart. Ziyech has put in a couple of big passes, but not £30 million worth. Timo Werner can't find the back of the net, and again that was what, 40-50 million pounds. And then you've got 75 million found for Kai Havertz, who is just the shit version of Mason Mount, isn't he, really? So I think he knew once those signings didn't hit the ground running that his days may be numbered.
Yeah.
It's a shame because you like to see what he could do over maybe 3 years. I mean, if you look at it this season, we've got 3 club legends in there. We had Lampard, Solskjaer and Arteta. Arteta started off really badly this year, and there were people calling for his head, and there was predictions saying he's going to get sacked. Same with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Started really poorly, but they've both been given the time. I don't know whether that maybe differences in the way clubs are run. That Chelsea want results and they want them now. They don't want to wait. If I'd spent 220 million, then I'd want results now. I'll go with that. But I think whoever replaces him in 18 months, 2 years' time, we're going to have this same conversation again as, well, actually, they've been sacked. Even if they do win the league, they're not up the top again. Yeah. It's the same sort of thing at Chelsea all the time. So I don't think he'll take it personally. I think he'll know. But could he have done anything different? Probably. Because they've got the ability to win and score goals, haven't they? And I mean, you look at Tammy Abraham got a hat-trick at the weekend in the FA Cup. Giroud's been scoring, but then he keeps taking those people out the squad and putting in players who are not playing particularly well. So
hold my beer.
But he's and some of the matches or lineups that I've seen, it is like, why the guy's just scored 2 goals in the game before? Why are you taking him out for the next one? And I know games are coming thick and fast, but there's a lot to be said for consistency, I think. You look at, Liverpool's a bad example this year, but you look at that front three for the last couple of years that have been prolific. Very rarely did it change. It doesn't matter how many fixtures there are. Very rarely did they get dropped or whatnot, unless they had an injury, and they've been prolific. And I just think he didn't quite know what his best lineup was.
Yeah.
And there may have been. I'm going to compare him to Mourinho now by saying maybe tactically naive. You think Mourinho? Yes, okay, he's got him a couple wrong a little bit this season. They can go out and score, but he's also not afraid to pull people back and say, just sit deep and defend. Where Frank Lampard, he's got his one way of playing, and if that's not working, it just seems a little bit lost. I think they beat us, didn't they? I think so. Shouldn't say too much. But yeah, that's my take on it. Anyway, I think it was coming regardless. It's a shame to see him sacked without given time.
I think that was one of the biggest shocks for me. As you said, there's been a few names for the chop this year, and I genuinely thought that Arteta would be gone before Frank Lampard. So obviously, when our good friend Daniel Romano messaged us this morning to say that there's rumours that he's going to be sacked, I was like, what?
I heard them last week, but I didn't think there was anything in it. I was like, not yet, especially after that win as well.
And that was it. They won at the weekend, so I was quite surprised that I know that obviously they want to try and do the best for the rest of the season, but I was shocked. I've got to be honest. I was really shocked to hear it was going to be sacked, as quickly as it come out as well. I know that, as you said, there's the whole rumour mill thing, but as quickly as that come out, oh yeah, he's going to be sacked today, and then bosh, I think it was like an hour later, yeah, he's been sacked. And is it Thomas Tuchel? They're looking to get in, and they're hoping to get him in by Wednesday. I'm not being funny, mate. If they've sacked someone that quickly, he's already in the pipeline. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you, do you think that maybe had something to do with it, as they knew who they? I think all the big clubs have a contingency plan. If it all goes wrong, who are we going to try and get in? And I mean, Tuchel he was at Dortmund, then he went to PSG. For me, not really pulled up trees at either. Spent big money, but couldn't win a Champions League at PSG. And they were dominant in the league, but it's not really like, if you take, like, what is it, Reims versus PSG. Who's going to win that? Mbappe's on more than that whole squad's worth. So
yeah.
But do you think it may have been a slight case that they knew he was available? They contacted his representatives and said, like, put the feelers out, and he's gone, yeah, I'll be interested in talking to you. So they've gone, right, let's go. While strike while the iron's hot. Yeah, mate. Do you think that may have had something to do with it?
Like I said, I think an agreement's already in place. I think that, excuse my language, I think it would be fucking stupid to have sacked him already if there was nothing in place. And if you think about it as well, so close to the end of the window.
Yeah.
I know that does give him, a week or less than a week, just over a week between now and the end of the transfer market. So potentially may be able to get that one of his own signings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But personally, I think it's stupid. If they were going to sack him, they should have done it at the earlier stages of the transfer window. Stupid. But yes, I think conversations had already taken place.
Yeah,
and that's why they've sacked him.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, do you think they will back him even if they bring someone else in? They've spent 220 million. There's no fans in the stadium. So they were banned for breaking financial rules in terms of signing younger players, wasn't they? I mean, that's changed. I've write myself a note, but I haven't got a pen.
It's fine.
Yeah. In terms of maybe they've put the feelers out and said, because I imagine as a sort of top tier manager, you know of players that you've worked with that can do certain things and know how you can play. So you could say, right, go out and get this one. One of these three will help. Maybe you keep a short list. You look at, if you're out of a job, like Tuchel is, do you look at teams and go, right, these are potential openings? Sorry, pardon me. And you go, okay, what does that squad need? What are they missing? And you can maybe shortlist some players for each one. So if the phone does ring, you're ready to go. I'd be interested to know, to be fair. Would be very interesting to know.
I think that there is, again, the agreement already in place. And I think possibly that there is, or he has accepted the job on the basis that he can bring in a player. And I reckon it's going to be, we will see Tuchel in place with a loan signing by the end of the transfer window.
Fair enough. It would make sense. I think they certainly need to get someone in quickly. I mean, the other thing, I know Lampard's gone, but does that mean the end for Jody Morris as assistant? He did very, very well as Lampard's assistant. I think he was at, I may be wrong, I think he was at Derby with him.
I think he was.
But he also worked for years within the Chelsea youth setup and was an instrumental player in making that what it is. Some of the players they are producing, even though some of them go out on loan and then are sold, like the likes of Hudson-Odoi, Abraham, Mason Mount, Tomori have all come through since he's been in charge and working that system. So it would be a shame if he was to go as well.
Do you think if there would be the potential for him to move back into that sort of position, or do you reckon that's it? He comes in, or the replacement comes in, all their staff, see you later, thanks for your service.
I would hope there is the potential for him to be able to do that. And I know it sounds weird as a West Ham fan saying, hopefully they get him back and he manages to work wonders with their academy once again. But that's more thinking for national team. because a lot of those players are homegrown. And I'll move on to the point now where, obviously, with England having left the EU, because Brexit means Brexit. But obviously, where Chelsea got their financial or their transfer ban was for poaching foreign players, wasn't it, and bringing them in at too young an age and things like that, because there's rules around that. There's now a strict ban on it, so you can only do that from homegrown players. You can't bring in someone from Sao Paulo or Argentina or all these different places around the world to your thing. There has to be very certain criteria around being able to do that. So I know for a fact from speaking to and hearing lots of interviews, reading stuff, and a couple of people I've spoken to that live around the country, Chelsea, Manchester United, City have all put out the feelers to local teams and to, say, teams that seem to produce good homegrown players, and sort of said, oh yeah, we'll supply you with all this new training equipment. Oh, we'll supply you with your hot and cold tubs. Oh yeah, we'll deck out you. Just to sort of, it's an unofficial sort of partnership of, you show us who your best players are and we will support you as a club. So I know Chelsea have been a big thing for doing that. I don't think they're wrong for doing that. If you can only pick from England, it's a very small country. There's lots of clubs in it. So to pick out the best players, you need to do that. I forgot where I was going.
We are available.
Yeah, but I forgot where I was going with this point. But just the fact that that's changed. And
was there the thought of having to put your boots on and run around?
Yeah.
And I said that we're available.
I
scared you a little bit.
Mate, it was the running bit that got me. It was, I can put my boots on, but I do have to sit on a stair. But yeah, so seeing Jody Morris, this Dick light bulbs come on. Seeing Jody Morris go back into that setup and potentially recruit and nurture some young homegrown players, which long term will benefit the national team, sign him up. If not, Golden Sullivan, can you do it? Can you get him? Because I'd want him within that West Ham setup. He knows what he's doing. He's managed. He's been assistant manager. He's managed a few games. He's been a success at youth level. You can't deny that. So I think if the opportunity is not to go back into the Chelsea lineup, or to become, if Lampard doesn't walk into another job and it's all sort of right for him, then he'll end up somewhere big, I would imagine. That's my blah 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 blah. Over my. It wasn't a rant this week. It wasn't a rant. It was all positive, but it did go on. So I do apologise. Goal of the week. We didn't.
Goal of the week.
Yeah. Sorry. The program we use. I'm going to call them out. Voice mod. Right. It seems to work any other time that I don't really need to use it, or I'm fiddling about. But whenever we go to use a podcast, it goes, nah, not working, contact support, and support go, right, it's your firewall. It's nothing to do with the firewall. It's something to do with updates that they do that don't quite match up with the Windows updates. So fuck you, voice mod. That's what I'd say. We didn't run a poll, did we, this week? But there wasn't.
That was my fault.
But well, I don't think there was really a need to. Yves Bissouma, he was an Arsenal target. I don't know if he still is. With an absolute belter of a goal. I think it was against Everton. I don't want to say for certain, but an absolute belter of a goal, and there was no other candidate that would have beaten that.
No.
If you haven't.
Gabriel Magalhaes' own goal was a pretty close second, but I see where you're going at. What a goal! There
wasn't a tenacity in the own goal that there was in Bissouma's. That's what tips it over the edge for me. So That moves us swiftly on to our next segment in the podcast, which is one good, one bad. So I can feel the bad.
Sure.
I can feel the bad brewing, Mike. So I'll let you kick off.
Yeah. Well, we were the early fixture as well. The one bad is that it fucking ruined my accumulator.
You should have known, mate. You should have known.
Yeah, no, I did. I put both teams to score on that one. Again, it should have not thrown away. To be honest, I should have changed my bet as soon as the squad announced. The one bad for me was the lineup, and I think after this week, it has only proven my theory that there are some players at that club that just are not ready at all, which is weird in the sense that Willian, he has, I've seen has divided some opinion amongst Arsenal fans. Some are saying that he's been played out of position, give him a chance, he will come good. There are others that are saying he's dog shit, terminate his contract. We've done it with a few players already. Just get him off the books. Now I'm somewhere in between though, because there is a part of me that really wants him to do well. But when you look at his stats since he's joined the club and played in competitive games, there's nothing to go on. Do you know what I mean? He's 32 years old. I think he's had like two or three shots, possibly max. When you look at him from his Chelsea days, it's just the shadow of the player. He's been absolutely terrible, and I do wish him well. I really want him to do well because I've said it before. When we signed him, he was a player I massively admired when he played for Chelsea.
Yep.
I'd always be excited to watch him. He's got the Brazilian flair about him, cracking touch, and he's got a bit of a shot on him. Why haven't we seen that yet? Frustrating. Nicolas Pepe. Again, you've heard me. I'm not someone that will change my decision depending on how good or if he scores a goal or not. I think he's appalling. He's not worth the £72 million that we've kind of paid for him. He's so inconsistent. And now there was two parts to Nicolas Pepe that I wanted to address. Firstly, I have seen that he created the most chances in the game, yada yada yada. But A, he's too inconsistent. B, there was about 4 or 5 players marking him, or sorry, that might a slight exaggeration. 3 or 4 players going towards him, closing him down when he was on the ball. So that is where you can kind of stick up for him. But he keeps hold of the ball too long. There's been a couple of times where he's been outside of the box, tries to go for a shot when there's an easier pass. And I think he's too inconsistent. There's a reason why he's been kept out of the team recently, and I appreciate, as you mentioned earlier, the games are coming thick and fast. Not everyone can be expected to play every game. But when I see Gabriel Martinelli being substituted for one of those, being substituted off instead of one of those 2 players, questions have got to be asked. Because Martinelli, you could see him running around trying to make something of that game, where those 2 were just diabolical.
Yeah.
So that's my one bad, was the team selection. The one good, I suppose, that's as a competition or another competition that we're out of, so we can focus on keeping the squad fresh for the Premier League to try and get as high as we can go. It's a tough one because I said it in one of my previews. If you haven't already, we do previews each week for the upcoming fixtures. Go check them out. We've got a whole playlist of all our previews, and you can see our comments and who we put in our starting lineups. But in my previews, I did say that I think it's going to be a tough job to get into the Champions League spots this year, which I think is true. There are a lot of teams that are fighting in and around that. I think United, Spurs, Manchester City, possibly Chelsea are going to be in the Champions League spots, depending on who takes over at Chelsea, and if their form kind of turns up, Liverpool, obviously on a bit of a decline at the moment, but I still think they'll be there or thereabouts. So Liverpool in the top four. So Liverpool, Spurs, Manchester City, and Manchester United.
Yeah.
I think will be the top four. But then you've got the likes of Southampton, Everton,
Leicester,
all going to be fine.
The Mighty Hammers. We're climbing the league. We're climbing the league. Untouchable.
Do you know what I mean? There are a lot of teams that are going to be fighting for the 6th to 8th position this year to get into Europe. So I honestly think that the FA Cup was possibly one of our best chances of getting into Europe again. Obviously, we are still in the Europa League. There are still some tough teams left in the Europa League. Speak up.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. There are still some tough teams still in the Europa League, and you've got to beat what's in front of you in order to win everything. I know that's an obvious statement, but I think with the way our squad is currently, we don't have enough to win that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we will struggle to get into Europe or the Champions League places in the Premier League. I've got to be honest.
Well, you've covered the point that I've written on my whiteboard here, is that do you think there'll be any silverware for Arsenal this year? But you've just answered that, and that's a no. I mean, you only are left in the Europa League. Do you think that, I know you said obviously going out of the FA Cup is sort of it's a double-edged sword, because you want everyone wants a good FA Cup run, but also with the league position. You said about obviously trying to claw up the league, especially being as it is so close. Do you think that maybe is a blessing in disguise for, or was possibly a plan from Arteta, knowing that the lineup was your weakest lineup, although you may put it as your first team in terms of seniority and appearances and careers and things like that. But do you think that maybe was a little bit part of the plan, so that you could focus on Europa League, having a push there, so you're not playing, because I mean it's only 15 days until the next round of the FA Cup. Do you think maybe that was in the back of his mind, actually it's one less game, or if you got a good run, 4 less games to play, and we can have a fresher, more dominant starting lineup for the Europa League as well?
No. It's a tough one to answer that question. Yes and no. Yes, because I think obviously winning the FA Cup last year, that is kind of good on his CV. I've already got that on my belt.
Yeah.
But with the fixture congestion and the difficulties that all teams are trying to find resources and stuff, and when I say resources, I mean like with freshness in the players and all that sort of stuff, there's only something you can expect of people trying to condense a full schedule of fixtures in a shorter time frame. So for me personally, I think that was almost kind of like a point to prove towards the board, because from what I understand, there was talks about Unai Emery wanting to get Wilfried Zaha into Arsenal, but because of some backhanded deals and apparently some shady goings on, that's why we ended up with Nicolas Pepe. Mm-hmm. And shortly after seeing the dismissal of Ralstonelli, so we think there was some dodgy backhanders in that. But he was going for Wilfried Zaha first, and I think he may be good in training, he may be crap in training. I would suggest that he's not as good as some other players in training, because Bukayo Saka has now gone over to the right hand side ahead of him.
Yep.
Willian seems to be the choice over him, so he's kind of like the third choice in the right wing position at the moment. Mm-hmm. So I think we may potentially see, or this is what I've got to work with.
Yep.
Kind of gesture from Mikel Arteta, and potentially seeing him possibly being offered up in the transfer market. If not now, certainly in the summer. I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure you probably do as well as me. The transfer fee it puts a big expectation, especially when it was as sizable as his, and that unfortunately has got nothing to do with the player. I mean, if he'd been brought in for 20 million quid, would you be happy with the performances that he's given, or would it be a case that it's still not good enough, but there's more leeway there? Does that make sense, that question? I'm not sure if it does.
It does. It makes perfect sense. And I think you are right in the sense that because there is that expectation on him there is that expectation on him because of his price tag. Rightly or wrongly, it annoys me when people do it about or we're doing it about the Mesut Ozil situation. Mm-hmm. That was the contract that was agreed between his agent, him, and the club.
Yep.
It was a contract that was offered. It's got nothing to do with him demanding that in order to stay at the club. Do you know what I mean? So I think for me, kind of getting on my high horse about people using that as an excuse against Ozil, sorry.
Yeah.
It's very hypocritical of me to then use the same criticism for Nicolas Pepe. But in answer to your question, possibly there might be a bit of more leniency because you wouldn't feel like you've wasted a lot of money. There was an interesting stat that come out earlier this week with the termination of a couple of people's contracts. So the likes of Mkhitaryan, Aaron Ramsey, Mesut Ozil, and all that. And it was something like we'd spent, I think it was like 180 or 190 or in excess of 180 million, and we've got nothing.
Yeah.
So for me, the 72 million seems to be a vastly huge sum of money for a record signing for our club that isn't producing week in, week out. I think that's why he's frustrated a lot of people.
Yeah, I think the general onus from viewing things online for Arsenal fans is that if he was average but consistent, it would be more acceptable because that's a basis to build off of. Where one game he looks like a world class player and you go £72 million, what a bargain, and then the next game it's like, well, what's changed? It's a bit like who was a Japanese geezer who used to play for Leicester? I can't remember his name. Was striker. Okazaki. It was Ranieri said every time he goes home, it's like he sends his twin brother back, and then he goes back and he comes back and he's a different player. And for 2/3 of the season, he's unplayable. Yet for that third in the middle where he sent his brother back, we might as well not have him. And I think it feels a little bit like that with Pepe is the fact that no one can. The only person who'd be able to is Arteta, but no one outside, none of the fans can understand why one game he takes on his players, he puts in good balls. All right, he might not score every game, he might not get an assist, but he's dangerous and he is that player that puts you on the edge of your seat and you go, oh, he's got the ball. And then the next game, it seems that with a little bit of pressure from the opposition, he just sort of sinks. And he's like, oh, I wish the ground would open up and swallow me because I can't deal with any pressure. It's there's no rhyme nor reason to it as far as I can see. I mean, I do feel sorry for him in the fact that he's a club record signing. I always like to be proven wrong. I mean, I've said it in all the games I play, whether it's FIFA, Football Manager. If I'm managing Arsenal, the first thing to happen is Pepe goes on the transfer list because I know in real life he's inconsistent. So if the game's realistic, in a game he should be inconsistent, and you don't need that in a squad. But in the same breath, I really want him to make all the Arsenal fans eat their hats and go, right, I'm gonna bang in 6 hat tricks in the next 6 games, and then become unplayable, and just something will click. But I can't see it happening.
No, and that's the frustrating thing because I text Dan at the start of the weekend, and I was really optimistic about the game against Southampton. I know there was a 1-1 draw the last time we played them in the league, excuse me, at home. But we had a player sent off. We just started getting back into the game, and Gabriel got sent off. So the game plan had to change. So we had to become a lot more compact, because Southampton this year are a good pressing team. They're a phenomenal pressing team. They're very solid at the back. They've got an extremely good midfield, and they've got wingers that are pacey. They've got people that can score goals, and there's something that I think Southampton have been lacking over the last few seasons. But there's always those glimpses there, and for me, there were some omissions from the squad. So Aubameyang, we understand that there's been some issues, some personal issues, which meant that he couldn't play. So he was obviously in contention for the game, and at the last minute had to be dropped. He ended up having to come home to sort out whatever personal issues he had. And I said to Dan, full of optimism, I said, you watch Willian score today. And then after watching about 15, 20 minutes of the game, it was like, what the fuck was I thinking? Of course he's not going to score. His touch was questionable at best. Don't get me wrong. There were times he did play more positive, and I think he had a shot on goal. But where is the Willian of last year, or the last few years, where he has got that Brazilian flair and swagger about him? He's not afraid to take people on. He's got the powerful shots, his free kicks. Do you know what I mean? There's just something not to his benefit with having David Luiz there in the team with him. But it's just nothing. There's nothing there.
The thing that concerns me most with Willian is when you look at Mkhitaryan, who you got, the first game was unplayable, and then did absolutely nothing, right?
Yep.
Willian, when you look at it, had exactly the same stats, because he got a couple of assists in that first game against Fulham, exactly the same stats as Mkhitaryan, and then did absolutely nothing since. And I do fear that's going to go the same way. And I know, obviously, you've got Edu in as a director of football, and that's maybe a relatively new role to him. But that's what's going to be the downfall of Arsenal. If he doesn't get it right, you don't get many opportunities. Was he about when you bought in Willian? He was, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So that responsibility, they may have gone to him and said, these are the players I want, and he has to bring them in. But somewhere along the line, there needs to be someone that says, hang on a minute, can we think about this? Because the Ozil one's gone a bit sour. Obviously, no fault. Personally, I don't think for the fault of Ozil. I think that was more a political statement by the club. And saying,
footballing reasons.
Yeah, but I do think that's it's unfortunate that he was unable to express freely his feelings about certain situations going on around the world.
Yep.
I think that has something to do with it, marketing, PR, obviously building reputations. I don't think anyone will ever know for certain, other than the board and Ozil, whether he ever got a straight answer. I doubt it. But that one went a bit sour. Obviously, Sanchez left. He wasn't on as big a money, but he was on big money. One of your best players, you swapped him for Mkhitaryan, who went on to big money, bigger than what Sanchez was on. That went sour. Who else have you bought and done that with? You done it with Pepe, because even though he showed glimpses in that first half season, big money, big transfer, it's not quite going to how you planned it. So when Willian come in and Chelsea was offering him a one year deal at less money than what he wanted, surely that tells you something. And I want to say it. Who was it? I want to say it was either Harry Redknapp, Sam Allardyce, or Ian Holloway, and I can't for the life remember. But I remember listening to an interview with them, and one of the things they were saying is when you get free transfers, it's like playing a lottery. Because yes, they can perform. You know they can perform because you've scouted them. That's why you sent scouts to see them. But why is the club letting them go on a free? What's wrong? Is it the attitude? Is it the training? Is it the inconsistency? Is it something outside of football that's causing problems? Why on earth would a club let you have their player for free to get him off their books? And I think Arsenal going, oh yeah, we'll just give you everything you want, looking through rose-tinted glasses that actually he can be a world beater. He can be top draw. He's at the end of his career thinking we're still going to get that player, but you're looking at him from 4 years ago. And I do think that was a mistake, whether it be from the manager, from the scouting team, from director of football. Someone along that chain should have said, hang on a minute, why are we getting this player for free? What's wrong with him? Why are they not signing him up? Why are they not giving him that money? And we West Ham made the mistake with Haller, didn't we? Luckily, touchwood, they recognised that fairly swiftly for West Ham and got rid of him for fairly decent money. Although I think out of what we did sell Haller for, we only see a small amount because of agent fees and third party things and people that we owe money to. But you've got to admit your mistakes at some point. Yeah. And I think some of that, sorry, I'm rambling on again. Some of that goes for Manchester United as well. Some of the players that they've brought in. I know it has all of a sudden started clicking. I don't know whether that's because Paul Pogba's gone, oh, transfer window, let's up our game. And then as soon as February comes, he'll go, didn't happen this time.
Bad enough, yeah.
It may well be. Every transfer window, he seems to get his form goes through the roof, and he can be world class. But he just, again, not consistent. Big money signing on big money. What was I saying? It's gone. About signings coming in for big money. Is that where I was going? Yeah, at some point, someone's got to be bold enough to go, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be doing this. And no one at any club seems to be able to do that. The big...
Yeah.
Go on.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, going back to Frank Lampard, sorry, I'm sort of jumping back a little bit. One of the other things I saw was that he kept pushing for Declan Rice. I need Declan Rice in this team. And they were saying, there was bounded figures of 50 million to start off with, then going 75 with add-ons to over 100. And reports I've read have said that the hierarchy at Chelsea and the director of football at Chelsea have all said, you need to drop this because we let him go on nothing as a youth player. And if we buy him back on huge money, that's saying we've made, if it's, for example, even if it's £50 million that he bought him for, that we've made a £50 million mistake there. We don't make mistakes at this football club. And he kept, and this transfer window, he kept alluding to, oh yeah, it would be a player that we would obviously welcome in. So again, I mean, Declan Rice is different. He's the most consistent player I've ever seen. But who at Arsenal is gonna, when the next big signing comes up, who's gonna do that due diligence? And if it's not right, say we shouldn't be signing this player.
Well, I did see that we have recruited new. I think it's a new director of. I can't remember his title exactly, but he's one of the former FA chiefs. Just see if I can find. Talk amongst yourselves whilst I just.
Well, what we're doing now, I'll go on to my one good, one bad. Yes. Which I'm going to do on this screen because I've mucked up all my cameras and screens. So, one good for the West Ham game against Doncaster. It was against Doncaster, wasn't it? In the full friendly FA Cup, we won 4-0. I did do a quick match reaction afterwards, and I was elated. I was so excited I couldn't quite get all my words out. My one good is that we saw 3 youngsters make their debuts. Nathan Trott. Sorry, I've got a bubble in me. Nathan Trott, the goalkeeper I've been going on about for a long, long time. Fantastic. He only come on for 10 minutes, but say made his debut for the club and is one that I'm excited to see in the starting lineup coming to the future. Jamal Baptiste, young 16-year-old, just signed a professional contract with the club. Looks the absolute nuts. And again, I think if he continues to apply himself in the way that he has done, and grow at the rate that he has done in terms of he's the mental side of football, will be a future England centre back. And also Afolayan, who played in the under-23s game. He is 23 years old, so he's a little bit older than the other two. But come on, he's a striker by trade. Come on, seems to be playing every position, filling the gaps, could read the game really well, was making himself available, quick balls, always forward, but also scored on his debut for the senior team as well. So that, I mean, it's three big goods, but under one banner of it's nice to see youngsters playing. The bad is that we've got, at the moment, because of form of players, and it's very unusual that West Ham do this, is we have too many players but not enough positions on the pitch. So we saw Benrahma, Lanzini and Fornals playing really well, but then Jared Bowen wasn't in the squad. I know Yarmolenko was playing as a striker instead of Antonio, but Yarmolenko fits into that midfield role. You've got obviously Afolayan, who can drop in a little bit deeper, play a little bit wider, same as Mipo. And it's just so many players who you want to see playing week in, week out, but there's just not enough space for them. You want to see Rice, Soucek, Noble, all in reasonably good form. I mean, our centre-backs, okay, we've only got two really in form, but Diop is an exciting young player that you want to see playing every week and getting back into form. Balwena has had trouble with some injuries. You want to see him playing more, but you can't drop Ogbonna or Dawson at the moment. So it's just that frustration of having so many players that you want to see playing, but just you can't have 25 players on the pitch. So that's my bad, and it's a positive bad, which is unusual. Yeah. West Ham don't have many positive bads, but that's one of them. But go on. Have you researched who you're missing?
Yes, yeah. So it's the new director of operations, a guy called Richard Garlick. He used to work at the FA, and apparently he's being brought in to help support Edu and Mikel Arteta. So you never know. We may see some bigger and better decisions going forwards, but who knows? It remains to be seen. I don't think he's in to start
them. I think. Personally, in a boardroom, you may be right that he's the man that's going to stand up there. But I think in a boardroom, if everyone agrees, it's the responsibility of the last person to agree something in a meeting to put in the opposition, even if they don't agree with it. The what if. And hopefully for Arsenal, he'll be able to do that and we'll be able to see them coming back on top.
Going back to yours.
Yes, going back to mine. Go on.
Yes. Obviously, watching your reaction video and also your preview video.
Yes.
You can definitely see the positivity within the West Ham ranks as it stands at the moment. I wanted to, in fact, you actually.
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there. Sorry, Mike.
Oh, sorry. Is that any better?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah. So you touched on the point nicely there about in the one good, one bad about the youngsters.
Yes.
Coming through. How often do you see them getting into, with the way West Ham are playing? Do you see much of a future for them in the club as it stands at the moment, or is this like an injury thing, or are we just looking at the future of West Ham?
I think we're looking
possibly in the cup.
I think. For the way we're playing, it would be hard to drop some of the big players. I mean, Afolayan, yes, he did score, he played well, but you don't drop Antonio for him. You know?
Yep.
Fabianski, you don't drop him for Trot. Jamel Baptiste, you don't drop Ogbonna for him. So, yes, in the Cup, I would like to see them maybe... And this is a difficult thing, because we've got a very difficult draw. And actually, the form we're in, the way we're playing, that never say die attitude that we've got, if they're going to come on against Manchester United in the next round, they're coming on from the bench. You know, because how do you play a weakened squad against Manchester United in the form that they're in? You need your best squad out. I do feel there is places for them. Afolayan, definitely. We haven't got a recognised striker. And I know people go, well, Antonio's got 40 goals in the Premier League. Yes, but he's also played at right back. You know, he's a right winger by trade. That's where he's played the majority of his career. He's excelling at a striker. But in 5 years' time, is he still going to be there? No, he's not. So we need to look at internally. West Ham were renowned for having one of the best academies and bringing through some of the best young English players the country's seen. Bobby Moore's, you know, Declan Rice is another one. Okay, yes, we did poach him from Chelsea, but then we nurtured him and brought him into the first team. Look at the success story of that. We should be looking to replicate that with every player that comes through the academy. Not all of them are going to be up to the mark, admittedly, and there is a little bit of trial by fire, but all three of those excelled. They were all calm. And yes, it was against lesser opposition, but there's still immense pressure. You're making your debut in the FA Cup. You're on a clean sheet. You're winning comfortably. When all three of those had come on as the substitutes, if that had changed, then they're the problem, because it's a very cohesive unit at the moment. But it didn't. We seemed more comfortable. It was just like bringing on a fresh set of legs. They all settled into the game very quickly, albeit, yes, okay, they only had 12 minutes on the pitch. Afolayan had 15. But they were good. So you need to nurture that and give them game time where you can, even if that is in cups and the end of Premier League games. Okay, you're going to get a 10-minute run out here, you get a 15-minute run out here. And the fact that there aren't fans, I know obviously the Premier League 2 and the under 23s do get fans, but they don't get the turnout at 60,000 that you get at the London Stadium. Like, you know, the away fans giving you jip when you travel away. They haven't got that pressure at the moment. So at the moment, in my head, this is the perfect time to blood them. Yes, there's pressure, but there's nowhere near the same amount of pressure as there would be. And I think maybe that's why the likes at Arsenal, Emile Smith-Rowe, we've seen come through, has excelled, because he's been able to get minutes. If he does make a mistake, it doesn't matter, because he's not being jeered by 60,000 people. And actually, the one or two mistakes that he has made after consistent game time, and that's the key, consistent, have dropped out of his game. And I just, part of me wants first team players to play badly, so you can go, right, this is the time. If it goes wrong, it doesn't matter, because we were playing bad anyway. But in the same breath, I want us to continue to play well and not give younger people, the youngsters, the opportunities that they may get if we were out of form. And that, I know that sounds backwards, but while there's a harmony around the squad, we're playing well. This is what I mean. We need to continue that and nurture that feeling within the club. And at that point, you can start to bring people through. Slowly, catchy monkey. If we're out of form and we're playing badly and we're losing every week, then chuck him in, because if it goes wrong, it ain't making a difference. If it goes right, then we win, you know? But I do think they certainly those three. Mippo as well. He's 17. He's declared for Ireland at the moment in terms of national teams, but they're all young players who do have a future in football at the highest level, in my opinion. I know I rambled on there, but I hope that answers your query.
No, it does. And that kind of leads me on to my next question.
Yep.
You are currently 2 points off of fourth place.
Yes.
So Liverpool currently sitting on 34. West Ham currently sitting on 32 points. Obviously, you've got the likes of Everton, who are you've got a couple of games on them. But where do you see West Ham finishing this season?
We're going to win the league. We're going to... No. In fairness,
we're only 8 points off top.
It's not impossible. Let's put it that way. It's not. We've seen stranger things. As much as I would like to say we'll finish comfortably top 5, the way we're playing, I don't think you can count anything out. It's been a bit of a weird season. Teams have been starting badly, playing badly, going through sorts of runs of form, and the fact that it is competitive this year. If you have 2 bad results, you're back down in 14th. You know, so as much as I want to say we're going to finish high, and I do think we're going to have one of our best seasons ever. For me, I'm just looking to the next game. Okay, so like this week is Crystal Palace. I'm not worried about Liverpool after that and Manchester United in the FA Cup and who have we got after that. Let's get through Crystal Palace. Let's secure. I think we can win that game, especially in the form we're in and the attitude around the club. But then you go, right, Liverpool is looming, and it's like, okay, we should get a point out of that. If we can get a point, that's a good result. I think we will. I think we could possibly nick it, especially with their form. But my main focus is Crystal Palace. Let's get a positive. Let's move from positive to positive. And last year I would have been looking at Crystal Palace going, "Oh, this is another banana skin." I'm not. There is that positivity, and that's echoed around the West Ham fans, which is really odd, considering last year there was protests and riots and all sorts. The year before that there was pitch invasions, and it's like this is a weird feeling, and I do think it's down to the board. And here's a praise coming. They've admitted their mistakes. They've not stopped making them, but they've started to admit that they were wrong in getting rid of Moyes and bringing in Pellegrini, because they sacked him and brought back in Moyes because he was doing a much better job.
Yep.
They bought Haller for big money. They invested. It hasn't worked out. Let's get rid of him. I don't know how they got the money they got for him, but they got rid of him. They're admitting their mistakes. Yes, he's brought his wife in now as a member of the board and paying their big money. It's just a way to get money out of the club. But to me, that says there's going to be a sale in the future. Because, okay, yes, you're trying to get money out of the club in each way, but to get rid of that board member, you're going to have to. There's going to be a clause in there. It's X amount of money to replace them. So to me, that line thinks, sound like Jar Jar Binks in my head. I think that there's going to be, or that they're succession planning. What's the next step? They're both getting older. I mean, I prefer one to the other. I won't say which because I always get it the wrong way around. The bloke who wears the rush now, I don't know if I think that's gold. I don't like him. He just seems a bit creepy to me, a bit backhanded to me. Sullivan, okay, yes, his son's a bit of a knobhead, but he seems to be that his heart's in the right place for the club. I don't know what the question was. Sorry.
I think what we've taken from that is you're fantastic. Yours, I think there's going to be a sale.
Yeah. No, the question was, where do I think we're going to finish? I think we're going to finish well.
Yes. Okay.
I'll leave it at that. I can, providing something doesn't go drastically wrong, like we re-sign Roberto, I think we'll do well this season. It'll be our best season, certainly in the Premier League. There is a section, Mike, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to take it.
Go for it.
I don't know if there is anything this week, but it's bloody VAR, bastard.
Oh.
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for one Shane. No, nothing. We got away with it, lads. We got away with it.
It was good.
But,
it was good, mate. I think my job's safe though.
Yeah, so do I.
It's the only thing I do good in this.
Have you got anything for VAR this week?
Yes. Go
on then.
I don't know. I can't remember if this was a VAR incident, whether it was used. I don't think it was, in all honesty. But there was a penalty given in the Nottingham Forest Swansea game.
Okay.
Again, I'm pretty sure there wasn't a VAR, but it was one of those decisions I wanted to speak about because it was a ridiculous decision. I don't know whether you The guy was running along the edge of the box.
Yeah.
And literally his leg hit the defender, went down, and a penalty was given. I think it was a joke of a decision, and the referees need to be held accountable for that. I know it wasn't going to change the result because he ended up winning 5-1, but how the hell that was given as a I don't know. See, it's a double-edged sword with this one, because it's either so bad that we need to scrap it from the whole of football completely, or it just highlights the need for VAR to overturn that decision. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a tough one. But for me, that was one of the biggest outcries of injustice at the weekend. And I know it was a goal, but it was ridiculous.
I mean, I can't comment on that situation because I haven't seen it, so it would be wrong for me to make a judgment. My biggest thing at the moment is VAR getting some right, getting some wrong. I think there definitely needs to be changes, or certainly training in terms of football and realism in these officials. I think there needs to be more use of the monitor. There was for a couple of weeks, and then that's died off again. But also, I think if we were to scrap it at this point, every decision that was wrong, an offside, or even if it's by a toenail or a penalty, everyone would be going, well, VAR would overturn that. VAR would make that right. So it does sort of put them between a rock and a hard place. I did say at the beginning of last season that the fan of German football that I know said that VAR has been there 3 years and they've just started to get it right. Until that point, you'll hate it. And I think they're pretty much spot on. We've started to see some more correct decisions, but not consistently applied. So I do think that they made tweaks in the short break that we had this year. They've made tweaks in the season. I think there will be tweaks in the second half of the season and in the off season. And I think next year we may be in line for maybe a more fairly applied VAR, a more consistently applied VAR, and the start of it becoming an improvement to the officiating rather than maybe, what's the word, not holding it back, but making it controversial, more controversial than it should be. So I do think we'll start to see it coming good, but don't hold your breath. I think we've got a little while yet for it to become consistent.
I think another 2 years.
Maybe. And it shouldn't take that long. It shouldn't take that long, especially being as, say, the German league apply it well. We see it applied well in the World Cup.
We see it applied well everywhere else for the biggest league in the world.
But it's job making, isn't it? You see it with every profession, and I don't know. There's not a single profession that I've not seen it in. If you're a builder, you've been doing it for 30 years, the new apprentices are going to come in and tell you that there's a better way to do it because they want to make their mark. If you work in the office, there's always someone recreating the wheel. There's a form that works. It's much simpler. You just write your name on it and that's job done. Well, no, we've got to recreate this form. We have to do it because it will be better and it makes it so much more convoluted. We're seeing the same thing with VAR and the implementation of it and the tweaking of it. It's people making a job for themselves of actually we need to make this much more convoluted than it needs to be because otherwise I'm out of a job. I don't want to, not that I'm saying I want to see people out of jobs. This is not what I'm getting at. It may sound like that. But instead of going to the officials and the heads and saying, right, what worked, what didn't, we go, oh, we know better than you. And they go, okay, we made that same mistake. But you don't want to, we'd tell you you made that mistake. I think that's part of life, isn't it? I want to make my own mistakes. Well, in terms of football, I mean, the amount of millions of pounds that are in it, we shouldn't be. We should be going, let's get the best. Let's start at the top and improve, not let's start at the bottom and try and get mediocre. Bloody hell!
So, moving on. It's the score updates.
Ooh. Before we do that, can I go for a wee?
Yes. Of course you can.
Give me 2 seconds.
No worries.
And we are back. My heart rate's only 112 now. I've only been up and down the stairs once, but I'll right back. Go on, predictions.
Score updates and predictions. So we had 2 games. So we had the West Ham versus West Brom, Arsenal versus Southampton in the cup, and then West Ham versus Doncaster.
Mm-hmm.
The West Ham versus West Brom was 2-1. Ian, you correctly predicted 2-1, and I said 3-1. So it's 3 points to you, 1 to me.
Yeah.
Arsenal versus Southampton, I had us down for a 2-0 win. You had a 2-1 win. You had them down as a 2-0 win. It was 1-0, so that's a point to you, 1 to me. West Ham versus Doncaster, 3-1 you predicted. I predicted 3-0. The score was 4-0, so 1 point each. So Ian, that gives you a weekly total of 5 points and me 2 points. The season totals.
Yep.
Ian has drastically moved up into 30 points, closing the gap behind me to just 5 points, and me on 39.
Mate, that trophy's coming here. Like
we got loads of games there.
The inaugural trophy's up there. You know, yes, okay, only me and Dan won it. I won it the first time.
Colin's won it, mate.
It's not the original, but I'm saying it's like it's a placeholder for the original. Like the person who wins it first gets to keep it forever.
Oh, does that mean I get to keep my trophy?
Well, the poo one, yeah.
No, I shouldn't even be the holder of that. To me, Phil just never took it up. I'm talking about this trophy, son. The actual FDT TV trophy.
No, you have to get a shoddy red version of it.
Well, one for the cabinet sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, fair
it's
enough.
Like if you go to Manchester United, we everyone else's is a replica. We hold the FA Cup. It's like, no, you fucking don't. That's not true. You just say that to people to make yourself feel better because you haven't won in a while.
So moving on to this week's
4 games, mate. 4 games to predict.
Yes.
12 points up for grabs.
Not that we're affiliated with BT in any way, shape, or just saying. I think all the games are on BT Sport this week. Yes, we have 4 games.
Fuck off, BT Sport, you bastards.
Oh, I have. So we have Palace versus West Ham.
Yes.
And then Southampton versus Arsenal. Back at St Mary's for the second time in 3 days.
Yep.
Moving on to Saturday, we then have Arsenal versus Manchester United, followed by West Ham versus Liverpool on the Sunday. So you are technically the first game tomorrow. I think that's just purely alphabetically.
Yep.
So Palace versus West Ham.
Palace versus West Ham. Go and watch the preview because there's lots of positives in there. There's a full match breakdown. There's history. So I'll get to the point. 3-1 to West Ham. I'm pretty sure that's what I said in there. I may have not, but I'm confident. 3-1 to West Ham.
I have been a little bit off the mark with West Ham predictions recently, but I'm fairly confident. Again, your preview shows are absolutely brilliant, mate, as shown by the numbers. If you haven't already, go check out Ian's predictions. But I'm going to go for 2-2.
2-2. Okay. Yeah. Moves on to Southampton. Ooh.
Yeah.
I mentioned Southampton. Ooh.
It's away again. Do you know what? I was actually doing some stats, and I'll put this into my show about our away record. Again, if you haven't already, go and check it out. But because we are playing away again, I do think that we are playing a more rotated squad, so more in line with what we have been playing recently. I think the only main exception is going to be for Thomas Partey to come into the starting lineup with Granit Xhaka in the midfield.
Yep.
Kieran Tierney is obviously back in the squad. Pablo Mari, who has had a fine run of form recently, is currently out injured. So I think Gabriel claims his place back into the squad. And we obviously know the issues with Aubameyang, so I'm going to put Martinelli out on the wing where he would play. So I think with that stronger lineup, I think it's going to be a different result, and I'm going to put us down as 2-1 winners tomorrow.
I agree. I think you're going to play what is a stronger squad, maybe not necessarily in terms of personnel when you first look at like on paper. But I do think you'll play a stronger squad. I think Southampton have got you down to a T though. A very strong squad. James Ward-Prowse free kick, I can see going in for them. 1-1. Oh, and then the big one. What used to be the biggest game of the calendar year, not so long ago.
What, West Ham Liverpool?
No, Arsenal Manchester United.
I know, I was trying to be funny. Clearly backfired. Yes, Arsenal Manchester United. It's a game I've got to admit actually I'm forward to. We got we've done them over at Old Trafford. Granted, it was a penalty, but I thought we played really well. Thomas Partey was absolutely outstanding in that game. Again, I think it's going to be very much dependent on the play tomorrow, but we have got a few days rest now after this particular game, so I think we may see the same individuals in that team, obviously injury permitting. But you can't ignore the fact that Man U are on a great run. See that they come away winners over Liverpool in the FA Cup. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has got the team firing. Paul Pogba is starting to put out performances, and weirdly, when Paul Pogba puts out performances, Manchester United seems to be firing. So I think it's going to be a tough one. We are at home, so I'm going to give us a slight advantage. I'm going to go again 2-1 winners to Arsenal on that one.
Fair enough. You said Paul Pogba's firing. Obviously, he seems to play well in the transfer window. This game's still in the transfer window, so he will still play well. For me, I think they're going to run riot a little bit. 3-1, Manchester United. I don't know what they've been feeding that team, but if they continue to do so, then fuck. That's all I'm going to say.
We'll find out on Saturday.
Yeah.
And finally, West Ham versus Liverpool.
Yep, as I said, I only like to focus on one game at a time. I do think we're more than capable of winning this game currently. However, I will take a point out of it. I think Liverpool have got goals in them. We've got goals in us. 2-2.
I'm very on the fence with this one because it's almost kind of like a mirror reflection of the two teams last year, in the sense that Liverpool were the diehard. Well, we're going to go out no matter what. Do you know what I mean? We're going to fight right till the end. Whereas they've kind of given up the ghost for certainly the last few weeks. Liverpool lost against Manchester United. They haven't really got many goals in them recently. We did see them lose against Burnley as well just recently.
And we could have scored several against Burnley a couple of weeks ago.
I'm going to be slightly optimistic on this one. I think with the draw against Palace, I think that will spur you on for this particular game. We obviously know Liverpool's defensive frailties at the moment, so I'm going to put you as 2-1 winners for that.
I would love that to be the result. I did say though, I'm going to double down this. I think I said it last week in our match companion. I've said it before. Beginning of the season, Jurgen Klopp's right hand man has gone. Since he's gone, it's all fallen apart. Can't say I didn't say it. I don't know which ones I said it in, but go back and watch. There's definitely there. I can see them imploding even further this season. They'll go, well, it's because Virgil van Dijk. No, it's not. It's because the structure of the club has now changed, and that has a knock-on effect. It is an aging Liverpool squad. When you look at the ages of that team, they're an older team, and it's just good to see, especially being as after like Liverpool fans wouldn't shut up the end of last year. I've not heard a peep this year. Absolutely nothing online. There's not a single Liverpool fan online. I can tell you that now.
To be honest, there's one of my mates, Mark. He loved a message when Arsenal got beat or whatever, and I think he's very lucky getting that when Liverpool lose to send him the same kind of treatment. It's nice to see them back in their box.
I think. So if we can get some positive results, we actually go above Liverpool. Depending on obviously their results, we're only 2 points behind them in the league. And for the best team in world football, for us to be 2 points behind, measly West Ham are shit, and you got no fans, mate. We're 2 points behind you.
I would say that if, depending on, again, this is going to be the results permitting on the first lot, so the round of fixtures tomorrow. But if you beat Liverpool on Sunday, you could go above. So if you both win tomorrow, you could go above them with the win on Sunday. But moving swiftly on, sorry, I know you were running the show here, but I just want to briefly touch on transfers.
Yes, that was next on my list.
Oh, perfect.
Very good. Great minds think alike, people. Great minds think alike.
It doesn't happen often. So, Ian, West Ham transfers?
What about
anything going on?
No, as always, we get linked with all and sundry. David Moyes has taken the opportunity to say, yes, they have some targets in mind, whether they can make them work. He's a different kettle of fish. The fact that he doesn't want to bring in just anybody, he wants to bring in the right transfers. And obviously, since we've seen him in place, we've brought in Thomas Souček, we've brought in Vladimir Coufal, who've both performed. We've brought in Jared Bowen, who's now becoming good. We're starting to see the best of him. He's getting his recruitment right. He did well on a limited budget for years at Everton, and he got his players right. Very rarely did Everton go out and spend money and go, oh, we've mucked up there. So that's a bonus. I wouldn't necessarily say we're going to see any movement. We've been linked with some weird and wonderful transfers on big money strikers with people I've never heard of, and everyone's going, oh, this is fantastic. No, it's not, because look what happened with every other. Like, you'll just moan that we've bought 57 strikers and they've scored 15 goals between them, Here's the thing, right? In that stat, the stat of since Golden Sullivan been at West Ham, they've bought 38 strikers who've scored 27 goals.
Yep.
Whatever it may be, something like that. Antonio isn't included in that because he's a right midfielder. The people saying he's the best striker we've ever had. No, he's a midfielder that's filling in very well a role of striker. I do think he'll end up as our top goal scorer ever. He's not far off that now. But no, I don't think there's any incomings. I'd be very surprised if there is.
There was sorry, is that you done?
That's me done. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to ramble anymore.
No, that's fine. So we had a few departures from the club. So the long-serving Mesut Ozil 7 time has now come to an end. Arsenal joining Fenerbahce yesterday, I believe. So Good luck to him. One of the most outstanding players I think I've ever seen in an Arsenal shirt since I've been supporting him. I'm not saying he's the best, but it's certainly one of the best. Socrates has now left by mutual consent. I understand that Mustafi is also looking to terminate his contract early. But in terms of incomings, we have apparently agreed a deal for Martin Odegaard from Real Madrid. There's still a few days to get that deal over the line, and it's looking more increasingly likely that. But there was one transfer that kind of caught me by surprise.
I know who you're going to say, and I think it could be transfer of the window.
So we got him on loan until the end of the season. We have seen issues with our goalkeeper, Alex Runnison, since he's come in. So we then went for Matt Ryan from Brighton, who was their third choice keeper. Does come with a good bit of pedigree about him, saying all the right things on the interview. I think potentially he was too close in order to start against Southampton on Saturday. But I do think that we will see him used in the Europa League, certainly for the first couple of legs now back into. I know we're in the knockout stages now, but I think he will be used within that. He's been brought in to obviously push Bern Leno, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him. Just purely on the basis of his recent pedigree within the Premier League, and also his comments in the in his interviews.
I think possibly a mistake by Brighton letting him go out on loan. I know he's not their first choice at the moment, but he was last year and the year before that. I think he's got outstanding qualities, and he's a very personable bloke. He morally fantastic. You know, he's Australian, isn't he? When they had all their wildfires at the beginning of 2020, he set up a fund for the wildlife sanctuaries to start rebuilding and sheltering a lot of that wildlife that would have otherwise seen its demise. He was helping, that same fund was helping with obviously local villages and stuff to rebuild that were decimated. And I think it's a win on all accounts for Arsenal. It's a loan. It's not costing an arm and a leg. He's not all right. He's not going to slot into the first team, but he's got the potential to. A very good, very, very good backup. And maybe something you should have done at the beginning of the year rather than now.
I completely agree. I think with Alex Runnison, I think he was playing. I can't remember the team he even come from. This is how much he's not impressed. I mean, he was fairly flaky in a couple of his earlier appearances, but certainly I think the standout one was the Manchester City. I think that was the nail in his coffin in terms of regular football for the time being.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that he's
never say
not
never.
going to be one for the future. Yeah, because I personally I would send him out on loan, possibly to a championship club or something if anyone would be interested. He definitely needs some experience within English football, because he was very shaky. And he did have the aura of confidence about him.
Yep.
Because I mean, from what we could see, he's quite good with his feet in terms of short passes out and stuff like that. However, his kicking game and throwing game was definitely all sorts of off, and I think it just shows his inexperience as it stands at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think Arsenal have done well in terms of getting in an experienced Premier League keeper as a backup. Yeah.
The one I know you mentioned there, Martin Odegaard, and everyone's been singing his praises. I mean, a few years ago there was a huge battle across the European giants, wasn't there, for his signature as a wonder kid at 15 years old. He's never really quite hit the ground running. He's been out on a few loans since. Last year was his best year in terms of assists and goals. People are saying, well, all these pundits, but he's scoring goals. Last year he scored 5 goals in 28 appearances. He got 7 assists. I may be slightly wrong on the assists. I do think he has the ability. Is he there yet? I'm not so sure. And I would like to see him in the Premier League because he certainly does have quality. When you look at his training, when you look at the matches he's played in, he does have the skill. He does have the awareness. He's not the most physical of players. He certainly hasn't been in the last few years that I've seen him. Not necessarily saying you need to be a big physical player to be able to do well. But again, same as Runarsson. It's a change of scenery in terms of moving about. Different country. Spain's nice and warm. England's not. It's a change of pace in terms of the Premier League is fast. It's high press at the moment. That's the style we're seeing from people. It is very physical. There are a lot of strong defenders, defensive midfielders who are going to barge you off the ball, who are going to give you a kick. It's a change of training, I'm sure, from Real Madrid to Arsenal. Will he hit the ground running? That's the question for me. If he doesn't hit the ground running, then for me it's a flop because you're a loan signing.
Yeah,
as much I'd like to see him fill that role and do what Ozil did a few years ago and get 16 assists in a half of a season, I can't see it.
No, and to be honest, I mean, I don't know about it, but he comes with a lot of praise. Everyone seems to be really happy about that signing. And me personally, this is kind of like a a Kim Kellstrom signing when we got him a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's been brought in to kind of fill a gap. And this is going back to what I was saying earlier about the likes of Willian and Pepe, and the fact that they had their opportunity over recent weeks to show that they are ready for competition in the Premier League. But I think it's the performance summed up their current ability. And for me, Odegaard is being brought in to fill that position behind Emile Smith-Rowe. There's no other option for me, because like I said, I don't know a lot about him, but apparently he's been brought in to fill that creative midfielder position. We've got him on a 6-month loan with no obligation to buy, and I think it is purely just to fill in the space. Where Emile Smith-Rowe doesn't play, that's when he'll get his opportunity.
Yeah,
and that's all I see.
I do think there is a saving grace to my negativity, is that he wants to play football. He played a lot of football last year. He's gone back to Real Madrid, not played any, so he wants to go out on loan. He wants to impress. He wants to improve, and the only way to do that is to play football. So that is a bonus that he obviously is a young man who wants, seemingly to the outside world, wants to apply himself and learn and play at the top level. And if I mean, as I said, he is a very young man still. I know his name seems to have floated around for years, but it started floating around when he just turned 15. So I'm just going to look up his age actually. Martin O.D. How old do you think he is if you had to put money on it?
23.
He's 22.
Close.
He's just turned 22. So he's still, in terms of footballer, very, very young. Still able to, I would say, a raw talent, but once they get game time under his belt, and if he can do that, if he performs, one or two things will happen to him. He'll get a full season loan next year with possibly an option to buy, or he'll be in the Real Madrid starting lineup.
Yeah.
So for him, he has to apply himself to get the chances, and when he gets those chances, he has to take them. So there's no more motivation for a young player, I don't think. He's got the world on a string.
To be honest, I mean, that's the mindset I've got with Dani Ceballos now, is that, I mean, he's come out and said that his heart belongs to Real Madrid. He loves Arsenal. He was desperate to come back to us this season. Granted, it isn't getting as much game time as he was last year, but I mean, he's currently injured at the moment. Nothing too serious from what I understand, but I think this is the last we'll see of Dani Ceballos. And in all honesty, I mean, depending on, well, in fact, no, I don't think it even depends. At the end of the day, Real the parent club, and if he does hit the ground running, like you said, he's probably going to get bigger offers from other clubs that will maybe be able to afford him, such as you like the Manchester Cities and all that sort of stuff, Manchester United, or he's going to get put back into the first team with Real Madrid. So I think it's a good option for us at the moment. Like I said, we've got some players that are underperforming, and it does remain to be seen on what he does for us if the deal gets put over the line. As far as I know, it's been agreed. There's a few more things got to cross the T's and dot the I's, but we should see him by the end of the window. But there we go.
Yeah, you mentioned something quite interesting there about Ceballos saying his heart belongs to Real Madrid. I understand. I appreciate he's a loan signing, but for me, if you're thinking about home and Real Madrid, you should be going back. I don't care if you're not playing football. For me, you're here, you focus on us, your heart's with us, even if it's for a season, the passion's with us, you want to fight for us. And I do think that last year we see that he wanted to fight and scrap and claw, and there was the sort of the shithousery with some of the tackles and the antics we see from him, because he wanted to impress. He went back to Real Madrid. They said, no, still not quite the level we need. We don't want you this year. We'll go back on loan. And that, I think he's maybe a bit fed up with it, that he knows. deep down he's never going to make it at Real Madrid, but you always want to, and that's for me. I would find that very distracting as a player, because you think Barcelona, I don't think have got the same pull, especially this year. Real Madrid, yes, okay, they're in weird form, certainly weird form, but they are still a draw, aren't they? It's Real Madrid. It's the Bernabeu. It's the legacy, Luis Figo, Ronaldo. Zidane, playing under Zidane. You'd always want to do that as a player, but if his heart's not with you and his head's not, that means his head's not far behind. It's only going to lead to bad things.
To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if I mean, there have been glimpses recently of the Dani Ceballos from last season, because I mean he wasn't really getting the opportunities, and we started seeing Mohamed El Neni finding his place. But over recent weeks, up until he got injured, you started seeing the more positive play. They're playing the balls forward, some absolute killer passes.
Yeah.
And I would be, put it this way, I would be very surprised if we made or we tried to go for a permanent move for Dani Ceballos. I think we've got him now to the end of the season. Thanks very much. Adios.
Yeah, thanks for your time. See you later, love.
Ta-ra.
Well, with that, we've sort of summed up everything in terms of football this week. FA Cup victories. FA Cup, well, we sort of brushed over the fact that you lost in the FA Cup to Southampton. We've covered Frank Lampard, we've covered transfers, we've covered next week games. But all that leaves us with is a non-footballing subject of the fitness challenge. How's it going?
I've got to be honest, mate, I'm really enjoying it. There was a part of me that was very... when we first started this challenge, because I was trying to get myself motivated and... get off my arse and actually do some exercise.
Yeah.
Now, when we did the base tests, I knew then that there was a lot of work that was going to be needed to be done. Don't get me wrong, I still feel like there's a hell of a lot of work that still needs to be done. However, I've got my new exercise bike, which I've used every day since I've got it. Depending on what sort of time I've got, it's been 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm absolutely loving being back on the bike. Skipping for me is something that I always used to love when I was at school, and I've watched quite a few videos recently on the benefits of skipping, and it works all of your body, to the point where my abs are sore, my shoulders are sore. So I'm hoping it's going to do some things. Yeah. But yeah, it's going well. I think the only thing I need to...
Sorry, I think you said there the only thing you need to sort out is your diet.
Yes.
Fair enough. It sounds like it's going well, which is not something that I wanted to hear, if I'm honest. I want to make changes. I'm not happy with myself. The diet, I mean, for me, I started the intermittent fasting with a mindset of, as I start to lose weight, adding in a little bit of exercise, it will get easier. I'll feel a bit fitter. And I'm sort of doing this at the minute. I'm sort of doing this. I'm not expecting it to drop right off, but I'm struggling. I'm struggling, if I'm honest, with the motivation after a day's work, getting stressed out, this, that, and the other. And I'm not obligated. Where I used to book in personal trainer sessions and things like that, it wasn't because I needed it, because I've got the knowledge is in here. I used to take a book and write my own notes, and my trainers going, "What are you doing?" Well, I'm writing everything that we're doing and what and why and how it felt. It was to obligate myself. I've paid out that money. I need to go.
Yep.
I need to make use of it. Where there's no obligation at the moment. Yes, okay, there's a challenge going on. I'm not getting maybe the workouts that I should. Maybe doing the things that I should, eating the things that I should. Where I'd go, I'll have a biscuit. Oh, I'll have a chocolate. Oh, I'll have a bag of sweets. That's my biggest downfall is sweets. I fucking love them. I'm the sweetie king. Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm trying to force myself into the mindset of not being a fat bastard. If I'm honest, that's what. Don't beat around the bush. We don't usually. It's a mindset thing, and we've been in it for. Well, I say I've been in it for a year, maybe a little bit more. Some of that wasn't of my fault from having obviously old bash to the head, rendered me useless. But say since I've been good, since I've been able to. Last year we've been in lockdown, and I've let it go.
Mate, I think everyone would be guilty of it. I think that's the biggest kick up the backside that we needed. For me, certainly, because I started getting to, albeit not as darker places as I've been previously, but starting becoming immensely frustrated, being stuck indoors all the time. But I don't think the weather has helped.
No.
Until recently, and working from 8 till 5, so all the hours of daylight, it's very difficult. And trying, as you said, after a bloody hard day at work, getting to 5 o'clock, to then having to go and walk the dogs, to then trying to sort out dinner and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Trying to fit a workout in between that is becoming, or was becoming, very difficult. Obviously, when it's in the summer, it's lighter later. Means there seems to be more of like an expectation on yourself to get out and do something because you've got the daylight.
Yeah.
Now, for me, when it come round to exercise, one of the things that's always drawn me back to exercise is cycling, and the fact that I was able to buy an exercise bike, stick it up in my house. I've now got no excuse. It's right next to my bed. So I wake up in the morning, it's there. On lunch breaks, I have to walk past my bedroom, it's there, I can see it. So I'm now finding myself using the bike either at lunch times or when I finish work. When I finish work, I can go walk the dogs. I then come home, put dinner on, jump on a bike for half an hour. Honestly, mate, it's changed me so far. Give it another couple of weeks, it'll become a glorified clothes horse.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I'm really enjoying it.
Very good. Well, so I bought the same bike. It's going to take a little while to arrive. So I mean, I know that the challenge is only a month, but I think once one of us starts to lag off, the other will hit a bit of peak and drag the other one with them. Hopefully, anyway, and we'll get fit and stay fit together. And eventually, this time next year, we'll go. We need to do a fitness challenge. I'm sure that's the way it will go.
Absolutely. But as well, don't forget you have been with the stresses of moving and stuff as well. So that's obviously not.
I don't want excuses. If I don't,
right, you're a fat sack of potatoes.
If I don't win, then it's everyone else's fault because they're doing the voting.
Speaking of which, the fitness challenge. Yes. We have recently received some questions in relation to why we're doing a fitness challenge and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
We have got a video coming out shortly which is answering some of those questions. If you have any questions for us about the fitness challenge, or even about football, if you want to come for a discussion, look for our names on Twitter. We have links to other social media. We have got Instagram, although we're pretty used to using that as it's at the moment. Some of we're going to get better with, but certainly hook us up on Twitter and leave your comments in the comment section below. We'll always get back.
Yes, we will. And if you want just questions answered about anything,
not my PIN number. I'm not giving you my PIN number.
I'll have a stab at any question, any answer. It may be like providing you want a long rambled answer that loses its way and then comes to a very abrupt point, which it could have done 20 minutes ago. Then send me your questions. But I think that's a good place to wrap up. If you are listening audio, we are getting more audio listeners than we do video. It is available on YouTube, all free of charge. FDT TV. There's a big gold cup with a name on it. Make sure you're subscribed. There's a lot more content that comes out on there than there is as audio podcasts. But until then, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
We are FDT TV, and we will see you next week.